What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Call it.
Call it.
Yes.
For what?
Just call it.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film. We explore its themes, its history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I am a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. Again, I am John Roca. I am a voiceover artist, host of numerous shows here in Los Angeles, and I don't know, an actor, I guess.
You are an actor.
Thank you.
Have
I
you
talk about things.
Have you been paid to act?
I have been paid to act.
Have you gotten a SAG card?
I've gotten a SAG card before, yes.
So you are an actor.
Okay, fine. I'm an actor. So be it.
And by the way, I think a good actor.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, I've thought from the beginning. So
now that we've kissed each other's asses. And you're a fantastic director. And
I was
you're
like,
a great
wait a second.
film lover of film. You're a great analyzer of film.
I didn't
yes.
want my ass to remain unkissed.
I apologize.
So today, as we go through the show, one of the great things is that we get to, at the beginning now, we get to talk about a new director. It's like, when are we going to knock off each of the great directors? And now we've come to not one great director, but two great directors. Let's just say filmmakers.
Yeah.
Because these guys produce, write, direct, and don't tell anyone, but they edit their own films.
Wow.
And we're talking, of course, about the Coen Brothers.
Yeah. One of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. For so many reasons.
Is that and I think there's so many of us, when you just hear, with some movies you see like, oh, what's this movie going to be about?
Right.
Like, oh, that looks like something I want to see. And with them, it's, oh, there's another Coen Brothers movie?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. It's going to be an experience one way. I mean, they have the occasional outliers like Intolerable Cruelty that are not necessarily, or even Lady Killers are not necessarily their type of film. But when you hear Coen Brothers, you want to jump all in and see what they can do with it.
So normally I ask, how did you first come to the film?
Yeah.
But first, well, maybe we should say the film we're going to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Although it is really on the title of the podcast, so most of you probably already know the movie we're going to talk about. This is our most recent film.
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men.
It's more recent than Casino Royale?
Yeah, Casino Royale is 2006.
Oh, yeah.
This is 2007.
So we've been breaking our rule here, and people have been commenting on it.
We're not going to, we have to define our rule.
Oh, yeah. Well, we used to say before the year 2000, or at least I used to say before the year 2000. But
yeah, and I've kind of altered that to 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because it's going to advance as we advance, and since, although... Don't tell anyone we're recording this in 2006. It will be 2016. Yes. It will be released in 2017.
Right,
and therefore that's 10 years to No Country for Old Men.
Qualifies.
And really, by the way, for all of you listening, the real rule is this is a movie that we want to do.
Yeah.
And yes, we are going to get back into silent films, and yes, we are going to do more foreign films. We promise you,
definitely.
But for right now, it's No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
And normally I'd ask you how you first came to the film, but I want to ask you, how'd you first come to the Coen Brothers?
Raising Arizona was my first experience with them. I skipped Blood Simple for whatever reason, and there was just something about Raising Arizona that I just loved the trailer and that song. It's all of that was just great. So I remember seeing it by myself at AMC theaters in Dale City, like I used to do when I would have these breaks when I worked at a bookstore there or a clothing store there. I would go and take these breaks, 2-hour breaks, and go see a movie and then come back and finish my shift. So I went to see that there, and I just fell in love with them. And then Miller's Crossing really cemented my love for the Coen Brothers completely. That's still one of my favorite top 10 films ever made. Miller's Crossing is so eminently watchable, and the dialogue is amazing. And this film, a lot of people call it their masterpiece, and I don't think you can argue. I
can't argue.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I agree, but I can't argue.
Yeah.
Like
you can't argue the sentiment.
No,
right.
Of course not.
Right.
I have to think and it might be. It might very well be.
Yeah.
I'm exactly the same. Didn't see Blood Simple, which isn't surprising. It was an indie film. Didn't get a wide release.
Right. I still haven't seen it. Did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I should see it.
It's good.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll see it.
It's like in a way, I put Blood Simple is to the Coen Brothers as Reservoir Dogs is to Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, really?
In a way.
All right.
But maybe not quite as good a movie as because I think Reservoir Dogs is an amazing movie. But,
Yes.
But what's interesting about it is it's a low budget movie, but you can see that's the Coen Brothers. It's really clear that it's made by them. Yeah,
You sold it.
It's
I'll
really
watch
good.
it.
Yeah, I saw Raising Arizona in the theater, and it immediately became in the rotation of we're going to rent this on VHS.
Yes.
I remember. I think I gave it to. I gave it to Steve Jones for his birthday one year when buying a VHS tape was really expensive.
Yeah. It's $120.
I don't think it was that, but I think it was like $40, which for a 19-year-old or 20-year-old, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
We quoted it all the time, and it was just like, here's a completely new way of making films.
Yeah.
And it was geeky and fun and thrilling, and then you get again Miller's Crossing, amazing movie, and movie after movie. And do I love every single Coen Brothers movie? No, but every single movie I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
And
I've been let down by them, but go ahead.
Sure, and some of them are off the charts. Like for instance, so Fargo comes out. I thought Fargo's an amazing movie.
Very good movie.
And then Lebowski comes out.
Yeah,
and I saw Lebowski in the theater, and I went, "That's okay."
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
It doesn't attach to you like other.
Let me finish the story.
Sorry, I apologize.
Is that I saw it in the because I loved Fargo.
Yeah,
and Lebowski's not Fargo. It's
absolutely
very different. And then doing the DVD job, the DVD of Lebowski came in, and there's some movies that I had in that job where I watched them over and over and over again, and I had liked them in the theater, and they got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah,
two that pop into mind are The Rock.
Oh, yes.
And Armageddon.
That's not possible. Shut your lies. Because at some point, I'm going to convince you that we're going to do Armageddon on this podcast. If I have to get Michael Bay on here, we will be covering Armageddon at some point.
I don't want Michael Bay in this podcast.
He's
love not
Armageddon
supposed to be a
so
nice
much.
person.
Yeah, The Rock, I've never understood the love for The Rock. I get the idea of the comments and the quotes are funny, but that film just doesn't do it for me.
Well, in the theater, I liked it a lot.
Sure, great experience.
And then I saw it the second time, maybe not so much. The third, by the time I'd watched it 6 times, I hated that movie.
Yeah.
Lebowski, every time I watched it, got better and better. And after watching it 10 or 15 times, I'm like, this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, Lebowski's great, man. And it does grow on you. It does, like Anchorman, like these kinds of films, if you watch them over and over again, they just kind of grow on you. And Lebowski's just such a great masterpiece. And I remember seeing it in Germany. In Austria. I went to visit this girl I'd met on a chat room, and we'd never seen each other, and I flew out to Austria for 10 days to see her, having never seen her, and we dated for 10 days. It was amazing. And one of the things, her favorite film at the time was Lebowski. So we went to see it in this alley in Austria with these fold-out chairs and the screen that they pull down and beer, and just two pints of beer each of us, just watching and laughing the whole time, and that's where my enjoyment of the film started to grow. Just like you, I saw it the first time, thought, it's funny, but I didn't understand the love people had for it, and then when you watch it over and over again,
Well, and this is the thing about the Coen Brothers. So let's talk a little bit about them because they're unique filmmakers.
Yeah,
they grew up in Minnesota, which is where Fargo is.
Near.
Thank you. Where Fargo takes place. My brain immediately went to, Fargo's in North Dakota, but Minnesota, and then I got really confused.
Oh yeah.
And they, like Steven Spielberg, like other filmmakers we talked about, they got that video camera when they were kids and started making their versions of movies they loved. They just refilmed movies. Yeah. I think Joel went to NYU and studied filmmaking. Ethan went to Princeton where he studied philosophy, I think.
Wow. Okay.
I think. I don't have my notes in front of me, but and then they come back together, and the first place they start working for Sam Raimi, and they're the editors on Evil Dead.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they invented on Evil Dead, Sam Raimi and the Coen Brothers invented one of my favorite low-budget filmmaking techniques, which is called the shaky cam.
Yeah.
And so so to do really fast dolly shots or steady cam shots costs money.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, this is one thing you can do, which is and I've done it, which is you take a camera and you strap it to a 2x4 that's maybe 8 feet long. And then you have one guy on either side of the 2x4, and they can run with the 2x4 with the camera in the middle. And what happens is because if you have one person running with a camera, it's bouncy.
Yes.
Really, really bouncy. But if you have two people, they tend to even each other out. So it's not a steady cam. They call it a shaky cam.
Right.
And the thing you can do with it that you can't do with a Steadicam is you can go over and under things because you have two guys 8 feet apart.
Right.
So they can run towards a car or a person and then go over that person.
Right.
And then they can have someone jump over the piece of wood.
Right.
And you could do shots that you'd never seen before. And if you look at Evil Dead and you look at Blood Simple too, which is their first film, is you see the shaky cam.
Oh, right,
which is a great low budget filmmaking technique. And then after Blood Simple, which is a hit at Sundance, early Sundance, they go on to make Raising Arizona, which is this great comedy. And you start to see these elements of the Coen Brothers style, which is dialogue, which is they don't like naturalistic dialogue. They like Coen Brothers dialogue. It's a heightened dialogue, and the way they move the camera and their exploration and tilting of genre. You know, we're in a genre that's recognizable, but they're doing it in their Coen Brothers-y way. And so it's always fun to see whether it's Big Lebowski, which is like, it's actually a film noir detective story.
Yes, it is.
But tilted in a Coen Brothers version.
Because he's one of the most unwilling protagonists in any film that you'll ever find. One of the most like, he could care less about what he's doing, but he's dragged into this situation. And then you follow along with him, you know, with all his foibles. It's fantastic. Yeah,
and interestingly enough, the way they were always credited in the past was that Joel was credited as the director.
Right.
Ethan was credited as the producer. And
it's a DGA thing, I think.
Right. It's the reason of it was the two guilds, the Producers Guild and the Directors Guild, but particularly the Directors Guild, said you can't dilute this title. Like in West Side Story, Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise shared the title. Directors Guild said, no, that's not cool. And so they made a rule. Only one person directs the film. And of course, they were both directing the film.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let them do it until recently. And recently I don't know which is the first one. No Country for Old Men is listed as produced, written, and directed by both of them. And they continue to go through genres until we get to No Country for Old Men, which I think is a departure for them.
Yeah? Interesting. Okay.
Well, it's not... It's funny. Craft-wise, all the craftsmanship, totally Coen.
Yeah.
Dialogue-wise, tone-wise, it's extremely restrained for them.
Yes. There is... The humor is not found in the quirky...
No.
There's no quirky characters. Like in Miller's Crossing, you have Steve Buscemi's character. Obviously, in Raising Arizona, you have a number of quirky characters throughout the whole thing, even though it's very serious themes. You know, Blood Simple has a noir vibe to it, so some of that bleeds over, I think, in No Country. And the Raising Arizona has that Western vibe to it, so you feel that in a little bit in No Country. So I think there's elements of the stuff they've done before, but you're right, Steve. It's one of the most restrained films because of the characterizations that these three actors do with the main parts in the film. They are not talkers.
No.
They are not overt. I mean, they talk, but they're not overt in their sentimentality or overt in their action by words. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And we should say No Country for Old Men is based on the novel by Cormac McCarthy.
Yes.
Which I just read
wow.
recently. And it's funny, I'd actually bought it on Audible a week and a half before you suggested doing this movie. I'm like,
nice.
Perfect. I'm just about to read it. And what amazed me about the book is the movie is so faithful to the book.
Yeah.
It is to the point where they describe their writing process as one of them sat at the keyboard and the other one had the book in their hand and read out of the book and the other person typed the dialogue into the movie. It really, a lot of the dialogue is exactly right out of the book.
That's great.
Which kind of is why I think it's a departure.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a
because
good
you
point.
don't have that Coen Brothers-y, sparkly, heightened, fast-paced dialogue.
Yeah.
You know? Do you remember how you first came to the film?
Yeah, I think I just saw it in the theaters. I'm sure I went with some of our friends because it's early enough that we were all friends by this time, and I remember I probably saw it with Shannon and Ian and Michael and a bunch of other people. Like we probably all went together and saw it, and just blown away by it. And it's a film that you have to watch over and over and over again. It's a film that still echoes in my mind, especially as I become an older man. You know, you hear the stuff that Tommy Lee Jones says, a lot of his dialogue. The fact that Bardem is the lead villain as a Latino actor, watching a Latino actor, there's a certain kind of pride in that. And I love seeing, like, I think this is the birth of Josh Brolin.
Absolutely.
All over again. Obviously, he'd been in Goonies and a number of other stuff, but this is the birth of Josh Brolin as a potential leading man and in these kinds of roles, you know, because he's really a character actor in a leading man's body. And so it's like these kinds of things that work. These are the kinds of roles that he's built to do, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, we'll get into the cast in a second.
I just remember being blown away, just so blown away by the film.
Yeah, for me, I was up in the Bay Area for the holidays, and the holidays for Karen and I is always stressful because all of our
majority of people. It's stressful.
all of our families up there, and so we would do. Particularly, this was 2006. We would do the relative dance. So one night we're spending the night here, and one night we're spending the night here, and then we have to drive over here, and we have to dinner with this person. Of course, this person will be really upset if you don't see them, and we're doing the runaround, which was exhausting. And we suddenly went, oh. We got 3 hours between when we have to be where we're leaving now and when we got to meet this other relative. And we went, let's go see a movie. And we saw that it was playing in Emeryville. Yeah. And I might have seen a trailer. I don't really know. Like, I really didn't know what the movie was about. I didn't know anything about it. It was just a way to escape into a movie theater for a few hours. And we walk in, and I knew it was a Coen Brothers movie, so I had the expectation of Fargo and Lebowski. And you sit down, and the movie is so stark and so quiet and paced so differently. And I remember having this moment where I'm 25 minutes into the movie, completely wrapped. And then my, filmmaker brain clicks in and goes, has there been any score? And I suddenly went, there's been no music. Yeah. And that, I cannot begin to express how amazing the lack of music is in this film. Because I think, and I looked it up, there's 16 minutes of music in the film, of which maybe 7 of them are in the credits. So it's really 9 minutes of music, and the music is barely, it's like drones. It's just a quiet, real sound design film. Yeah. And if you're a filmmaker, that is really, really fucking hard. Because music is what you depend upon. Music lifts your movie up. Music gives you the emotion. It communicates directly to the audience the emotion you want them to feel in the scene. Yeah. And if you watch a rough cut, which you frequently do with no music, you're like, oh, this is boring. So the level of filmmaking chops and guts to go, nope. And apparently it was Joel, this is what Joel really wanted, and Ethan resisted it. Wow. And said, no, let's do it without music. And it's really scary. Like, will it sustain without music? And of course it does. Yeah. Amazingly.
Well, I think that speaks to their cinematography. It speaks to the scenes that they've written. And obviously, Cormac McCarthy wrote originally in the novel. And the power of these actors to bring these scenes to life, that you don't need music. I told you the other day I had just finished watching The Lost Weekend, which is the Ray Milland, a very, very hard film to get through about the perils of alcoholism and where it can lead you. And the score is so overt in certain moments in that movie. And it really struck me. When you juxtapose No Country, there's hardly any music, as you just said, 9 minutes total probably in the actual movie as opposed to the credits, and you're still enraptured and engaged in what's happening because of the character study that's happening with these 3 actors. Like, everyone else obviously is fantastic in the movie, but
there's no bad actors in the movie.
No, there isn't. Yeah. But it's Tommy Lee Jones, it's Josh Brolin, it's Javier Bardem. These are the people you're following through the situations, and I think it's so smart the way they do this, because they let you feel like you're in the environment. Yep. At no point do you feel like you're being pulled out of the movie and watching as an observer. They immediately put you next to Chigurh, next to Javier Bardem, next to Josh Brolin, riding along with Tommy Lee Jones. You're just with them the whole time, and you're on their journey, and it's very much a man's movie. And I think women can watch it and appreciate it and adore it.
No, unfortunately, women are not allowed to watch it.
But it
was really sad. When I went to see it, Karen was forced to wait in the lobby. But I really wanted to see the movie.
Yeah, well, I just mean that, like, I'm sure women can appreciate it, but I mean, like, this is a film that, like, it's about men and the stuff that they confront, and the loss of power, and the inevitability of death, and the sneaky ways, and the amoral and moral conflicts that always occur within most men. And this is just, to me, it's just such a great exploration of that, and it's eminently rewatchable. It's something on the lines of Shawshank Redemption. It's one of these films about men that you can watch over and over and over again on TNT or on TBS, and it never loses its power. It never loses its effect on you.
Yeah, it sucks you in. And it's funny, I was thinking about it in a weird way in relationship to The Shining. And the reason is that I remember when we talked about The Shining, that's a movie that's extremely slow paced. Yeah. And yet once you're in, you're in. Mm-hmm. And you never have a sense of boredom. You don't have a sense. You're just pulled along. Yeah. And this is very similar. Yeah. And what's interesting is The Shining does it with wall to wall music.
Yes.
And this does it without. And you're just, and I think one of the big things, you're absolutely right about the performances, and in particular, it's the filmmaking details.
Yeah.
It's that they're really going to show you in a very patient way every single thing these guys do. And these are three really intelligent guys, and you get to watch, whether it's the tent poles or the that he's in the water and then he blows the water out of the gun before he shoots the dog. It's little tiny details like that where you see the intelligence and the thought process. And it's funny, I think actors, when they start, frequently young actors, they look at a script and they read the lines and they go, oh, acting, my job is to say these lines.
Yeah.
And that is not the job. That's a piece of the job. Certainly you're going to say lines, but acting never stops. And I know that, like, when Josh Brolin got the part, his first concern is, how am I going to act when I have almost nothing to say? And of course he's brilliant, but it's acting is all the things that you do. It's all the behaviors. It's staying in the moment. Yeah. That's frequently the hard stuff. If it's like, I have nothing. There's like Neil Simon is a playwright who's real. It's not that Neil Simon is easy,
right,
but here's great funny dialogue, and pretty much if anyone says it, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Being in this film, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You got to be really, really good.
Yeah, and the audience will go with you. The audience goes with you because those are the moments where you really cement your connection with the audience, is in the nonverbal cues, in the nonverbal moments. Like those things with, Tommy Lee Jones's eyes in this whole film are what I watch.
Oh, yeah.
That craggly skin around his eyes, like all of it, it is such a thing that I understand. And I know, having grown up in Virginia, yes, I didn't grow up in Texas. Obviously, the accents are different, but the South is the South. You have variations of the South, but the South is the South. And I think that's what's so great about this film. There's a simplicity to
Some
the
Texans
dialogue.
might disagree with you.
I'm sure.
Texas is Texas.
Yeah, I respect that. It is its own nation in a way, but like there are variations of the South and
Absolutely.
hues of the South in different states of the South, and you meet people like this, and I know people like this. It's very familiar to me, this film, because of the non-flowery language, the simplicity of exchange, and the there's no question about what has to be done on either side of any of these people. No. They all have to complete what they have to complete. They all have to do what they need to do, and that's it. There's no
Tommy Lee Jones might have the most internal struggle.
Well, only because
you're correct.
He's confronting whether he is out of date.
Yeah.
And everyone else, but he has to find out if he's out of date, which is why he pursues this.
And he's a man who has a sense of duty, and so he's going.
An honorable sense of duty.
And let's talk about these three guys, because one of the most, the movie's a three-hander, which is strange, doesn't usually happen.
No.
But the most unusual thing is essentially these guys are never on screen together.
Yeah.
Other than the gunfight,
and the conversation on the phone.
Yeah. They're basically never around together.
Right.
You have three independent stories. And let's start with Tommy Lee Jones. I cannot imagine any other actor playing this part.
Yeah.
It would be impossible.
He nails that Texas accent.
It's where he's from.
Yeah,
he grew up right. He grew up in West Texas.
Yeah, but you don't usually hear it as overtly in his other films as you hear it in this one, and that's what's so great. You get to settle into Tommy Lee being Tommy Lee, and you go with him. And I agree with you. There's no one else we would have enjoyed doing this part and would have given so much of ourselves as an audience to go along with. He takes care of us the whole film, and his subtle confrontation of the inner struggle within himself about his being out of date is so powerful in its subtlety. It isn't overt. He isn't like overtly talking about, hey, I think this is kind of behind me now, or I'm not able to do this anymore. Why can't I figure this out? It's a slow realization as the film goes along till he has that final meeting with his uncle in that house,
Well, and he has the intelligence, as all three of these guys have.
Yeah.
And next, he has the hard, craggy toughness of that West Texas sheriff. Like, this is not a guy to be messed around with.
Right.
But inside of it, through his eyes, as you say, you see that tenderness and the softness and the emotion that's always there. And I think it is confronting, maybe time has passed me and I'm not the person for this anymore.
Yeah.
But I think the deeper one for me is the world is going to hell. Look at and his deep sadness of, there's nothing I can do. My time has passed and this is going to continue.
That's why I was going back to that scene with him and that sheriff later on in the film when he says, he's got some hard bark on him, and he says it's the dismal tide, and he talks about the earrings and the green hair. Right. That's what that whole and Tommy Lee is there. Like, he's not judging. He just believes it's true too. Like that once you stop saying, he says, once you stop saying sir or ma'am, that it's just that kind of stuff's not that far behind. And he's just telling the truth about how this is a transition, because it's set in 1980. We
Right.
should tell people that the film is set in 1980. This is a transition time from the 70s with all the stuff. The young kids are becoming more and more vocal about what they want and what they are, and they're stating their presence. And the older generation that had this idea of how things should work is getting pushed to the side, and that's what he's talking about.
Well, and things that maybe started on the coast in the late
Yes.
60s and early 70s are making it now to West Texas, you know? And I would say, too, like thematically, I think this is a deeply conservative film.
Yes.
You know?
Agreed.
Not necessarily, and conservative in the classic sense.
Yeah.
Conservatism in the sense of that a liberal philosophy is open to change and a conservative philosophy wants to hold on to things and not change. And I'm not putting a political judgment on this at all, but you know, the whole no country for old men.
Yeah.
The world is changing in a way that maybe isn't so good.
Yeah.
And that line of once you stop saying sir and ma'am, well, that is a conservative value and
absolutely.
philosophy.
Yeah.
And me as a liberal guy, I actually kind of agree with a lot of parts of this.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm trying to beat pleases and thank yous into my kid because I think obeying the societal norms and existing within a society is an important value.
You know, I think sometimes this is the fallacy that people put on liberalism. It isn't liberal, and we're not getting into obviously Mr. Smith. If you want a political discussion, listen to our Mr. Smith Goes to Washington podcast. But this is more about the idea of there has to be a foundation of societal norms. Then the liberality, you can be liberal about society and about accepting gay marriage, all these kinds of things, and equal rights and all of that. Absolutely. But I think a majority, if not all of us, want to have societal norms that establish politeness and courtesy and respect. Whatever comes from there, comes from there. But that basis, I think a lot of people, and a lot of liberals, want to have. I believe that, and obviously conservatives too.
Well, and it's again how you frame the values.
Yeah.
You know, and I think small differences in the way we frame values end up creating big conflicts.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
So Josh Brolin, we talked about him a little before.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't think this movie is the good, the bad, and the ugly, but there is a different moral stance with our three characters that I can't. And Tommy Lee Jones is clearly like the good guy.
Yes.
You know, and Javier Bardem is clearly the bad guy. And Josh Brolin is somewhere in the middle. And he's very hard to define. Is that he is a tough, extremely capable, silent, thoughtful, moral but not overtly moral person, you know, who takes this opportunity. And we should say the movie starts, he's hunting, and he stumbles upon the scene of a gunfight out in the desert.
Yeah.
And it's a drug deal gone bad. And as he walks through, and again, this is exactly what's in the book.
Yeah.
He's kind of looking at the bodies, and you see his intelligence right there.
Yeah.
And realizes there's one man begging for water, which he can't help.
Yeah.
And he sees a trail of blood and realizes if there's a drug deal gone bad, there must have been money. And he finds the money guy dead with $2 million in a briefcase.
Yep.
And we're off to the races.
He was just hunting.
Yep.
And he gets caught into this thing. But this is so great because it's juxtaposed to the beginning of the movie, which is Tommy Lee Jones' dialogue and about that kid who killed that guy who killed the 14-year-old kid, and said he just knew he was going to kill somebody, and the hunting of it, right? That kid hunted that 14-year-old girl.
Oh, I hadn't thought about it that way,
just like Josh Brolin is hunting the deer, and this whole thing comes back to that scene he has with Kelly MacDonald, who's fantastic later in the film, where he says even in the battle between man and steer, it's not an easy thing, or it's not decided, you know, and that's the truth of even he's a terrible shot. Josh Brolin is a terrible shot. Like he shot the deer, but didn't kill it to where it went down.
Let's not say he's a terrible shot.
Well,
he missed the deer. I mean, he didn't kill the deer.
I mean, it's just standing there. I think that's a symbolism for what's going to happen through the whole film. Close, not enough.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
I would say that he's probably a really good shot.
Oh, I guess that's
you know
what I'm
I mean?
saying. Yeah.
But he didn't quite succeed, which is sort of where the movie's going to go.
And they let you know right off the bat, right? And they introduced Chigurh right in the beginning, but from behind.
Yep.
From behind. And you have no idea why he's being arrested. You have no idea why he let himself be arrested, but he already has the cattle prod gun. You don't know why he let himself be arrested. I think this is his beginning of finding everything out.
Well, and let's Anton Chigurh, one of the scariest bad guys I can think of.
Top 10 period.
Yeah. He is terrifying in his relentlessness, in his intelligence, in his coldness, in his craziness, in his weirdness,
Yes.
his slowness. like all of these things. He is scary. And his first murder of this cop.
Oh man,
it is so. And again, we talked about how Martin Scorsese deals with violence. We talked about how other directors deal with violence. The Coen Brothers, particularly in this movie, the violence is real, and it is brutal, and it is unromantic. It is really difficult to watch.
Yeah, and there were shades of this in Miller's. There are shades of this in Miller's,
sure.
And you see this really come through here. And for me, I always and will always remember the streaks of black on the floor from the deputy's shoes as he's struggling to try to live while Chigurh is choking him from behind. You have to ask yourself, did the deputy pull his arms back around in front of him, or did Chigurh somehow? And that's the thing to me. He's a demon. To me, he's a demon through the whole film. He's the inevitability of death. He cannot be killed. His job is to kill. But there is a flaw in him. And the flaw is the fact that he thinks his morality or his judgment of himself is removed because he can flip a coin. Like Harvey Dent, for those who know the Batman mythology, that if he flips a coin and you get tails and he gets to kill you, then it's out of his hands.
Well, he believes in fate. He believes in this idea of, he thinks everybody's petty moralities and motivations and desires is all bullshit because really it's fate and he is an instrument of fate.
Right.
And by the way, just on that choking the sheriff or the deputy, so how they did that, because they wanted it to look really real, is that deputy is wearing a whole, almost like body armor.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's like a bulletproof vest that goes up into his throat, and that's a fake throat.
Oh, good.
And the handcuffs are embedded in the throat.
Yes,
they're actually just to start is that the handcuffs are connected to the guy. And then Javier Bardem locked his wrist into the handcuffs.
Right.
And then the blood pack is in the fake throat. Because what they wanted is, normally if you do a choking scene, if you're doing combat, is that you're obviously not really choking because you can't, actually kill people.
Right.
And that what usually happens is that the person being choked controls the level of violence, so that it looks as if, so in some ways, like, you can do things where the person choking is trying not to choke and the person being choked is actually pulling the choke on. Yeah. So the muscles all look like they're working, but really they're not. The person's in control. Coen Brothers didn't want that. Yeah. They wanted Javier Bardem to pull as hard as he could and do it for real. And so they built a whole metal structure around this throat so he could really pull on it and not hurt the guy.
Interesting.
And this is the thing of the Coen Brothers. You look at the Coen Brothers, they're constantly asking, how can we do this better?
Right.
How can we do this in a way? Because this is the way that we do it. And they go, well, why do we have to do it that way?
Right.
Let's come up with a better way to do it.
Yeah.
So Brolin finds the money.
Yep.
And what's great with his character is he immediately knows he's in deep shit.
Yes.
Is that he is, and you see that intelligence right at the beginning. Is he's thinking it through and he goes, okay, there's a good chance I'm going to die now. Mm-hmm. If
I take this money, there's a good chance I'm going to die.
Yeah. And I'm not like, he doesn't go off and buy a Cadillac. He doesn't go off and party. He's like, everything I have to do is just to keep alive and keep my wife alive. Mm-hmm. And that's it, but then he still makes the mistake of going back.
Mm-hmm. Because he can't sleep.
Yeah.
The inevitability of it all. He has to go back to make sure. And in going back to making sure is when he screws himself over.
Yeah.
What do they always tell you? Criminals always return to the scene of the crime. And because he's a new criminal, I would imagine, he hasn't done much more than maybe petty theft, if anything.
He's probably, you get the sense that he was a kid that,
right.
was screwed around.
Right, but he's like a poor guy with his wife living in a trailer, right? $2 million falls into his lap. What do you do?
Yeah.
Right?
And we get to watch his intelligence. And we also see, so he goes back and gets chased by this truck, which for me, in a way, is like, that's up there with North by Northwest and the crop duster.
That's great.
It's such a great chase moment, and just barely survives.
Yep. And the dog thing is interesting too, in the chase.
Absolutely.
With the fact that he shoots the dog like that, and the ferocity of that animal when they're shooting him from behind in the camera, rather shooting the dog from behind as it comes at Josh Brolin, scares the living hell out of me every time I watch it, because there's inevitability to it, and he just at the right time,
Well, and it violates a basic Hollywood rule, which is you can't kill the dog.
Yeah.
You could kill 30 people, but the dog generally lives.
Yep. That's the whole basis of John Wick.
Yeah. But in this movie, he kills the dog.
Yeah.
Because of course he kills the dog.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to do.
He has to live.
But, and because he is a practical guy. That is his, and we should say too that he's a Vietnam veteran.
Yes.
And that he, and this is 1980, and he's a guy who's come back from war, and is a guy who's not successful, and this money falls into his, and we see all of that competence in combat and thoughtfulness throughout everything that he does.
Right.
And we get Tommy Lee Jones now. These bodies start popping up. And he's a great detective. In the same way that I think Francis McDormand is a great detective in Fargo, this is a great detective. He's laid back. Yeah. He listens. You see the intelligence. Like you see, for instance, so Chigurh uses this cattle stun gun.
Yes.
It's an air tank, completely bizarre weapon. It's exactly what it is in the book.
Yeah.
And you see that Tommy Lee Jones has figured it out before he says, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Because you see the wheels turning. You see him understanding things.
Yeah. I love the comic relief that Garrett Dillahunt is in the film.
Yeah, he's great.
He's so great because Garrett does a great job of playing these kinds of characters. Like Raising Hope is basically the same character he's playing here, right? Kind of a little step behind, not really all that smart. And I've seen him be villains in other movies. I've seen I think he was in Looper, and I think he was in Looper. And then in other films I've seen him be. So he's a great companion with Tommy Lee Jones. He's one of those people that actually is echoing of the quirky characters that you see in other Coen Brothers films. But for this film, as you said right at the beginning, Steve, it's a restrained version of this kind of character. Even he's restrained because he's asking these questions in a way of trying to get better, trying to get smarter about being a detective, because Tommy Lee Jones is so good at it.
Absolutely. I want to go back to flipping the coin.
Yeah.
Because the first time we see it is with that store owner.
I seen you was from Dallas.
What business is it of yours where I'm from? Friendo.
I didn't mean nothing by it.
Didn't mean nothing.
Just passing the time. If you don't want to accept that, I don't know what else I can do for you.
Yes. Oh my God. One of the best scenes ever in the history of film, Steve. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It is so. Well,
I get so excited about that scene because I love it to pieces.
why do you love it to pieces? Why is it
The
best?
dialogue and the actor who play, I think is Glenn Jones. I think the actor's name is.
Well, I need to see about closing now.
See about closing.
Yes, sir.
What time do you close?
Now, we close now.
Now is not a time. What time do you close?
Generally around dark, at dark.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Sir?
I said, you don't know what you're talking about.
Just this speaks to what I want to say about the Coen brothers as a whole. Their ability to cast their films with even the most minor characters with one or two lines is so brilliant. Like, they need to be lauded for this. If there were awards for this, they should be winning awards for this all over the place, because I think it's so important, because their films are pyramids. Their films are built, every block is important to lead, so the overall picture is amazing. And these little scenes with these characters, these actors who come in and convey an authenticity is so essential to make their overall film work. And the dialogue between them in that scene is so powerful, because there's so much hidden subtext going on to accompany the overt text going on.
Well, and this is where I think the scene where he kills the cop is scary.
Sure.
This is where he becomes terrifying.
This is, terrifying. Absolutely.
Because it's the emptiness of his delivery.
You lived here all your life?
This is my wife's father's place originally.
You married into it?
We lived in Temple, Texas for many years. Raised a family there in Temple. We come out here about 4 years ago.
You married into it?
That's the way you want to put it.
I don't have some way to put it. That's the way it is.
I mean, I really don't think Javier Bardem blinks in this role.
If he does, it's slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a quick blink.
I mean, and he's just, every line, what he's call it. And the guys, and you could see, because we're in the normal world, and in the normal world, people don't just walk in and flip a coin and kill you. So you see this clerk, his slow realization that something's wrong. Yeah. But he doesn't know what it is, and he's kind of asking, and then this empty figure is just saying, call it.
Call it?
Call it.
Yes.
For what?
Just call it.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what date is on this coin?
No.
1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And it's either heads or tails. And you have to say, call it.
Well, look, I need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything, call it.
All right. Heads, then.
Well done.
Right.
That is just absolutely terrifying. And then the next thing that I want to talk about too is he goes to where Josh Brolin lives, and he talks to the older heavyset woman.
Once again, great casting.
Unbelievably great casting.
Yes.
And she is in her just her normal way saying, "Sir, I can't give out that information."
Where does he work?
I can't say.
Where does he work?
Sir, I ain't at liberty to give out no information about our residents.
And Bardem just repeats the question in the exact same monotone.
Where does he work?
Did you not hear me?
And because we just saw the coin flipping scene, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
She doesn't know it's terrifying. We know it's terrifying.
Right.
Because we've established who this guy is.
Right.
And his completely relentless, unsympathetic, disconnected way.
But in some way, in that scene, there's a difference between how that store owner is, because a store owner is immediately unsettled and discombobulated, and is so afraid, because all he did was make an innocent comment about asking about the weather, just to pass the time, because God knows how long he's sitting out there between any kind of human contact with anybody. But in just that scene, he breaks him down, and he emasculates him by saying, by choking on the peanut and saying you married into this life of running a convenience store in the middle of nowhere is some kind of like, this is what you want to do as a man. There's a judgment inherent in the subtext in that moment, right? But with this woman, there's a respect, because the woman at no point conveys weakness or that she's going to help him at all, and he respects that strength and doesn't kill her because of that. I think that's the reason he doesn't kill her, is this kind of thing. Oh, I get it. You have your code. I respect your code. I cannot shake your code like I could shake that guy's code.
Well, he does believe in codes.
Yes.
I mean, his code is completely bizarre.
It is.
But if he flips the coin the other way, well, he's not going to kill you.
Right.
So Moss is on the run, and we get to see again the intelligence. And I love things like he goes into the camping supply store and says, "I want some tent poles."
Tent poles. Mm-hmm. You already have the tent.
Something like that.
Well, you give me the model number on the tent, I can order you the poles.
Never mind. I want a tent.
Well, what kind of tent?
Kind with most poles.
So first of all, that's a fantastic scene.
Yes.
But it's also a great scene because what do we as the audience do? We go, "What the fuck are you going to do with those poles?" Right. And this is good filmmaking makes you, the audience, ask questions. Yeah. You want to know more. Mm-hmm. On the fundamental level, I always say, like, all stories are mysteries. Mm-hmm. And what I mean, there's an acting book, I don't know if you ever saw this, it was All Scenes Are Love Stories.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I read that in theater classes, I'm sure you did. Yeah. And I kind of, a few years later, went, no, all stories are mysteries. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the mystery is just the movie starts, you go, who are these people? Right. And then of course the mystery is, well, how's this going to end? Are they going to fall in love or not fall in love? Right. But it's our desire to know what happens that keeps us involved.
Yeah, it takes us from scene to scene. Yep.
And in every scene in this movie, you're constantly going, why are they doing that? What is that for? Why is he getting tent poles?
Why is he getting a second room?
Why is he getting a second room? And why is he looking at the map to do it this way? And why is he he puts the money in the air duct. Yeah. In the motel, and he's in the second room, and then he's bending the coat hangers to be and he sawed off his shotgun, and you see him doing all these things. And we talked about it in Goodfellas too, is we like details. Yeah. It's fun to watch how things work. Mm-hmm. We're watching him do all these things, and then we see, he's built this pole to grab the briefcase through the air duct, and that is why he's in that room, and that is why he's doing what he's doing. Yeah. And of course, that alone would be interesting to watch, but there's something else going on at the same time, which is beep.
Yes.
Beep. which is here comes the bad guy getting closer and closer to the room.
It's like Jaws.
It is, yes. That's exactly what it's like. It's like the barrels in Jaws.
Yep.
Yeah, it's coming, and again, you get to make the decision as a director. It comes from Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Is the audience can be in front of the characters, with the characters, or behind the characters. And what that means is in Rope, there's a scene where there's a body. There's a Hitchcock film. There's a body in a cabinet, and there's a party going on. And the characters are just having the party with the body hidden there. And in the foreground, because Rope is shot in these really long shots.
Yeah.
And in the foreground is this big, huge cabinet where we know the body is. And the food for the meal is placed on top of it. And the maid is clearing the food while the conversation is going over there. So we're watching this and we're watching, oh shit, is she going to open up this cabinet and see the body? And the characters are talking and the tension is building and building and building until she almost starts to open up the cabinet. That's a case of the audience is ahead of the characters. We know something they don't. We know the maid is doing this thing.
Right.
It's like we know the bomb is underneath the house. The characters don't know the bomb is underneath the house. Sometimes you're behind the characters as the characters know something that we don't.
Right.
And sometimes you're with the characters where you and the characters know exactly the same thing.
Right.
So this is one where we're ahead of the characters. We know Anton Chigurh is outside looking for the room, but Moss does not.
Right.
And that's where the tension is coming from. And it gets tenser and tenser and tenser until he opens up a room and wipes out some other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is that sequence starts to show you the expanse of what's happening, and also the scene when, obviously, when Brolin goes back and those, and then Chigurh shows up to that same scene of the drug and kills those two guys in the ties. Like we start to understand that the story is bigger than we thought, and the Mexicans that he kills lets you know that a lot of people are involved, and then we get to the Stephen Root scene with Woody Harrelson. So we start to see like there is so much involved here to this one drug deal,
right?
And it's just this one moment where he took the $2 million that caused this whole chain of events. Yeah.
And since you brought him up, I love Stephen Root.
Stephen Root's so great.
He is so everything from News Radio, News Radio I think is one of the great underrated shows of all time.
Absolutely, man. The Phil Hartman years. Phil Hartman years. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Stephen Root is so funny, and he's so every time he turns up, it's like, oh, there's Stephen Root. He's such a good supporting actor.
To me, he's like M. Emmett Walsh. They had M. Emmett Walsh for a while, the Coen Brothers did, and then this guy takes his place. And Stephen Root's so fantastic in all the Coen Brothers films.
Yeah, whatever you do with him. Yeah. And we have Woody Harrelson, who comes in as the other sort of hitman tough guy. He might get a bad rap, but I think he's always good.
Woody's always good.
He's always good.
He's always committed. And I was watching White Men Can't Jump again the other day.
I love White Men Can't Jump.
And that's a good film.
It's a really good film.
Which explores a lot of adult themes that you wouldn't think a sports movie would do necessarily. Yeah. And it's so good in that way.
Yeah. I think that, it's like, what's the director? It's Ron Shelton. So he does Bull Durham, White Men Can't Jump, and Tin Cup.
Yeah.
Those are three really good movies.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll do them on the Cine-Files.
Right.
But I like them a lot.
Field of Dreams we should probably do at some point.
Absolutely. But that's not Ron Shelton. That's
I'm sorry. That's
Phil Robinson.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Woody Harrelson is great.
Yeah.
And then we get to our big gunfight in the hotel, which is Moss acquits himself very well. He's, he realizes what's about, like there's this sense of he realizes there's the little transponder in the briefcase that he realizes he's in trouble. He turns turning the light off in the room, where he's sitting, how he's waiting. And that cattle thing goes blasts the keyhole out, hits him right in the chest, and then there's a great brutal action sequence that follows. That's really scary, where he shoots Chigurh. I mean, he gets him. He gets the worst of it. Yeah, and it follows this great stumble across the border. Which is so well done.
But that's what's so great about the movie is that, like you were saying, it's a mystery, right? This was so great. At every turn, we're like, where are we going now? Where are we going now? Now we're going into Mexico, and now he's confronting these kids, and he's trying to get the jacket.
Even wounded, and he is really wounded.
Yeah, he is.
And bleeding, he is still thinking. He's tough and smart, and when he gets to those guys, what I love is he gets the jacket, he pays $500 for it, and then he asks for the beer.
Yeah.
And you're going, why is he asking for the beer? Does he want to kill the pain? Like, what's he trying to do? And it ends up that the reason he has the beer is so he looks like a drunk.
Yes.
And that's going to get him across the border.
An American drunk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's so like he's thinking. And then even the moment where he's woken up by the mariachi band.
Yeah. Which is so great.
Which is bizarre.
I love it so much.
And then they really see the blood and they stop. And it's this great low angle, wide angle shot. And it's really, that's very Coen Brothers to me. And still, he's still got now the plot of the movie really changes because once he talks to Chigurh and Chigurh goes, I'm going to go kill your wife.
Yeah.
And then then he's like, no, I'm going to kill you. And he has to get back across the border.
And then he has that insane exchange with the border patrol guy, which is so like, that seems so logically what would happen.
Tell me something. Who do you think gets through this gate in the United States of America?
I don't know. American citizens?
Some American citizens. Who do you think decides?
You do, I reckon.
That is correct. How do I decide?
I don't know.
I ask questions. And if I get sensible answers, then they get to go to America. And if I don't get sensible answers, they don't. Anything about that you don't understand?
No, sir.
Then I ask you again, how you come to be out here with no clothes?
I got an overcoat on.
Are you jacking with me?
Oh, no, sir.
Don't jack with me.
Yes, sir.
You in the service?
No, sir, I'm a veteran.
Now?
Yes, sir, 2 tours.
What outfit?
12th Infantry Battalion, August 7th, 1966, July 2nd, 1968.
Wilson,
Yes, sir.
get someone to help this man. He needs to get into town.
And it's so brilliant how it's that pseudo comic relief that happens in this movie, having that exchange with the border patrol. It's very Shakespearean in that way.
Absolutely. Well, and it again goes to what you were saying of the Coen brothers populating their movies with every supporting character you're going to meet or tiny bit part, they're going to be a character and be interesting.
Absolutely.
And he gets to this motel in El Paso and the wife is coming to El Paso.
Yeah.
And then you have possibly one of the weirdest things in any movie I can think of, which is right out of the book, which is he dies.
Yes.
Off camera.
Can we stop for just a second to go back to something what you just said?
Yeah.
This whole exchange that happens with him in the hotel and the wife, that we as an audience member, we instinctively kick into that whole like, yes, he's going to do it. He's
Exactly.
the hero.
Yes.
We buy into this idea that he's going to find a way. Why? Because he damages Chigurh, so we think it's possible. And then Chigurh has that scene where he blows up the car to get the boots, to get the medicine, and we're dealing with two incredibly resilient men.
Right.
One is just a little better at it because he's been doing it longer.
Well,
and this is why he ends up winning. But then he doesn't end up killing Tommy Lee Jones himself. Tommy Lee Jones is killed by an act of stupidity by Kelly MacDonald's mom.
Well, not Tommy Lee Jones.
I'm sorry, no, I mean Josh Brolin. Yes, yes.
Please don't kill Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, right.
too.
Well,
I'm so glad
we can discuss the ending later. But yes.
I'm so glad you brought this up because it's something I wanted to talk about too. Is that basic action film structure or thriller structure is that you always want to set up your bad guys more powerful than your good guy because you good guys have something to overcome.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what we've done up to this point. If we said this bad guy is way scarier, but Moss is intelligent and resilient, and we really believe, as you say, now we're heading into the final sequence. He's going to confront the bad guy. Our hero's going to win, and then that's not even close to what happens.
Not even close.
And not only does our hero die 20 minutes before the end of the movie, but he dies off camera.
Off camera.
And we don't even really know what... And I remember seeing it in the theater going, is that just... That can't be Josh Brolin. This is a mistake, right? Like, it's not... I don't understand what's happening. I literally couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
And it's the same... So I'm listening to the book. This is a week ago. And I got to the same point because they're just identifying the body now.
Yeah.
And I had to rewind it. And I went, did I miss something? And no, it all happens off camera.
Yeah. And it's great. And what's so great, once again, Steve, to hit it for the third time, that scene where he's walking the hotel and that woman is propositioning him, she is fantastic. And we never get a close-up shot of her.
No.
But she is sexy. She's country sexy, and she's fantastic in that sequence. And then when we see Tommy Lee Jones rolls up to see what happened, because what we see is Tommy Lee Jones, who's been convinced he's convinced Kelly MacDonald to tell him where he is so that Tommy Lee Jones can offer him protection. Right. And he rolls, and unbeknownst to him, Tommy Lee Jones Josh Brolin's wife, Kelly MacDonald's mother, has shot her mouth off to these Mexicans who are supposedly being nice to help her with her bags, and they find out where Tommy Lee Jones is. So we see that truck, that pickup truck, rolling out of there, and the guns blazing, and it's taking off, and that's how they got killed. He got killed by the cartel. He doesn't have. I think they take that money back. Obviously, I think.
We have no idea.
Well, we have no idea, right? And then what the first sequence we see when Tommy Lee Jones rolls up is seeing the woman in the pool dead in the water, and that's so brilliant because it lets you understand. First, you feel the sense of comfort that this woman is, because that's a classic thing in action movies too. Is you get that little come on in that moment. It establishes your hero that he's going to be a badass. They kill her, and so you know he's dead. You just know it.
It's funny. One of the few things that's different in the book is the relationship with her is much longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they don't have a romantic relationship, but they have lunch and then they're having beers and they're talking.
Kind of like Gone Girl when she goes and has that relationship with those two people when she's hiding out in that hotel. Yeah. Okay.
So it goes on just a little bit longer, but I think they cut it for good reason.
Yeah.
And now and I want to talk about too is that we have Josh Brolin healing.
Yes.
And then we also have Sugar. So again, it's a moment where you go, why is he putting gas on this piece of fabric? And he's going to blow up that car. Why is he blowing up this car? Oh, he's blowing up this car to get medical supplies. Yeah. And then you have one of the great operating on yourself sequences that culminates. So he's taking bullets out of his leg.
Yeah.
And it culminates with this fantastic naked shot of him on the toilet operating on himself. That is just... That is an amazing shot. It's funny and disturbing and scary, like all at once. Yeah, it's an amazing shot. And now you're kind of left in this place of like, I don't know, what's the movie about?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And where do you feel it goes from here? Like, what do you think it becomes about?
Well, to me, it's very reminiscent of To Live and Die in L.A. When, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, you can turn it down for like 30 seconds. When William Peterson is killed 20 minutes before the end of the movie, and John Pankow has to take over. And to me, what the movie becomes about after Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin is killed, is Tommy Lee Jones's journey. And the book, since you have read, is told from his point of view the whole time. From what I understand, it's told from Tommy Lee Jones's point
bounces.
of view.
I mean, he leads every chapter,
right?
So we start with him, but then the book tells all sorts of things it's impossible for him to know about, because he wasn't there. Because you bounce around the other characters, too.
But I feel like this,
but he's the heart of the book,
right? And I think that's what we come back to, because Tommy Lee Jones is our classic hero. He is moral. He does not do anything that's amoral, like Josh Brolin does by stealing the money. Tommy Lee Jones is supposed to be our protagonist, and that comes clear to us after Josh Brolin.
Right, because what I thought was our hero
was Josh Brolin.
He's now gone, so I go, Tommy Lee Jones is going to be a hero, and then we lead up to this moment where Bardem and Tommy Lee Jones are coming together.
Yes, in the hotel room. At night.
At night, and it is terrifying.
It is,
because there's no sense that you have that Tommy Lee Jones can take, Sugar out.
No.
Sugar. There's no sense that you have of that, right? Like, and so when he comes in that hotel room, he's not thinking the bad guy's here,
right?
And he's wandering around. You're like, oh fuck, is he gonna die? Like, what's gonna happen here?
I think he has a suspicion when he sees the keyhole blown.
Oh, absolutely, at that moment,
yes,
yeah.
But until then, yeah.
But he still isn't. He pulls his gun out, and then he kind of sits down, and then because we already had our last hero die, so it's no reason why Tommy Lee Jones can't die, and then he ends up not dying,
right? I think he knows he's there.
I don't know.
I think he knows he's there. I think when he sits there is when his realization that he's out of his depth for the first time ever, and he can't do this. And in that moment, there's an acceptance of that, and he doesn't court fate. Yeah. If he had investigated that room further, he'd have found Bardem, and Bardem would have killed him. Why is Bardem there in the room, though? If the money's not there,
I don't know.
And Tommy Lee Jones is dead. I mean, God damn it, Josh Brolin is dead. Why is Sugar there?
I don't know. Well, and the police have been here.
Yes.
So where was he?
Yes.
We don't know. But again, he's like the wind, like he can just walk in and out of these places.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have this conversation with his uncle who was in a wheelchair.
God, I love that conversation, man.
What you got ain't nothing new. This country's hard on people. You can't stop what's coming. It ain't all waiting on you. That's vanity.
But that's the first time we start to see Tommy Lee Jones come to terms with the fact that he's out of his depth. I mean, the second time, because obviously sitting on the bed is my belief that he starts to really kind of conceive of it, but then he starts talking about it with him. And to me, that's one of the greatest scenes in this film, man.
So what do you like about it?
Because there is no bullshit. There is no bullshit in that scene between them. It's just truth. He makes fun of him. Because you tell that immediately they establish a familiar relationship because he says, "How'd you know it was me? Is that I heard your truck pulling up?
Yeah.
You know, I heard the way you came in,
come,
and who else is going to come in? But then he's got all these cats, you know, which is so ironic to have a cat man instead of a cat lady, and he's in the wheelchair, and he tells the story to him about his father, and it's all symbolic. It's all symbolic, and Tommy Lee Jones is telling him, you know, like
Well, what is it symbolic of?
Oh, to me, it's symbolic of this. It's done. It's done. You're done. This is done. You can't do this anymore. You're done. And the way he's telling him, there is no, I don't know what you want to say. There's no like, well, maybe if you work harder. No, it's okay. Yeah. There's no encouragement. It's an acceptance, a man to man saying, yeah, you can't do it anymore. It's time you wrapped it up and it's done. Well, what do you think?
Well, to me, because I think it's a great.
Because I know why you're asking me. You want to talk about it, so talk about it.
No, actually, I'm not sure. I'm not. It's
okay,
not,
really, you're still not sure now?
Well, I mean, because I think this movie doesn't leave you with like, here it is.
Yes.
But which I love. My gut is because it's really strange because the dramatic elements of the movie are basically over.
Yeah.
And we now have all these scenes. Mm-hmm. Those scenes take on a lot of significance because it's just like, well, this is what it's Cormac McCarthy's really and the Coen Brothers are trying to tell me.
Yeah.
And the thing I think about it is that to some degree the moral conception you had of the universe as a kid is a lie.
Yep.
That's what it really is. You end up an old guy in a wheelchair with cats that nobody really cares about, waiting to die.
Yep.
And that, both of them say, and that's what, there's a story about your ancestor that had this thing.
Right.
And when that happened, and what did that mean? Well, maybe it didn't really mean much of anything. And now you've lived your whole life fighting the good fight, trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And maybe that didn't do any good.
But this is what happens to us as we get older. And I started to have these thoughts in my head too. Like, what's your legacy? What have I really done? What have I accomplished? And in his way, he's like, what have I really done? Yeah, I stopped the crimes that I stopped, but I never stopped crime as a whole. Yes, I saved lives.
Crime's just going to keep going.
Yeah, crime's just going to keep going. I'm just another a bookmark or a chapter in the long history of law and order, the long history of crime in this city, in this place. Because, at the beginning of the movie, he talks about he was a sheriff since he's 25 years old. So he is starting to conceive of the fact of what was the point of my life? And that's what a lot of men do at that stage in their lives when they hit that age is like, did I really do everything I was supposed to do? What's my legacy? What was the point of my life? What was the meaning of it all?
So, I was just thinking, a little while ago, we recorded an episode on It's a Wonderful Life, one of your favorite movies and my favorite movies. And it's just occurring to me as we're talking that this is like the opposite message. Like the message.
You mean No Country's the opposite message?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That the message of It's a Wonderful Life that we talked about is your life matters.
Right.
Look how much each man makes a difference. And what we're talking about with Tommy Lee Jones is he's contemplating the fact that his life hasn't mattered at all.
Right.
That he hasn't made a difference, that maybe this is all for nothing.
Well, I think he needs a visit from a Clarence type version to sit him down in a bar and be like...
Don't you wish he could get that?
And go through all his case files and be like, look at all these families that you saved. Look at all these people that you were able to affect their lives in a positive way. So you may not see it, but like George Bailey at the end of it, It's a Wonderful Life, he needed those people to show up with that money and to show him the love so that he could see his effect on the town finally once and for all.
I wish we could send Clarence to Tommy Lee Jones.
I don't think so because that's a different movie.
It's not this movie. No. Well, and the world in Tommy Lee Jones's mind is just slowly heading down the toilet.
Which, once again, just at the beginning of the film, he talks about the fact that this guy is like, I was going to kill somebody. I'd been fantasizing since I was a kid, and I'll be in hell in 15 minutes. Once again, it's they lay the symbolism of these people's journeys at the beginning of the movie for all of them.
Well, and there are really three moments that relate to so there's that moment, and then there's a great line from Josh Brolin, which is if I don't come back, tell my mom.
Yeah.
And she says, your mom's dead. And he says, well, I guess I'll tell her myself.
Yeah, right.
Which is really similar. It's like, I'll be in hell in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to die. And then the final monologue from Tommy Lee Jones, which is so powerful, in which he talks about his father.
Even in the interaction with his wife, who's great, by the way, in the couple of scenes that she's in, she's fantastic. He says to her, Tommy Lee Jones says to her, like, he tells the dream, right? And the first dream about the money being lost, that's something too. People blow off that dream. People say, oh, no, it's the second dream that's really important because it's about his death. Yeah, but that first dream about him fumbling away money his dad gave him, there's something to that.
Well, because his dad handed him the baton.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not enough people talk about that dream. They always talk about the second dream. And both of them are related and important to show you who this guy really is underneath.
It was like we was both back in the older times. And I was a horseback, going through the mountains of the night, going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold and there was snow on the ground. He rode past me and kept on going, never said nothing going by, just rode on past. And he had his blanket wrapped around him and his head down. When he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire in a horn, the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it, about the color of the moon. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead. And he's fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he'd be there.
I think essentially the meaning of that monologue is, now I'm going to die.
Yes. Absolutely it is. His father went ahead to do the campfire, to light the fire, to wait for him. Because he knows he's going to come meet his dad when he dies, and he's going to die soon.
Well, and I think in a lot of ways, this movie is a criticism or a reconstruction of the classic Hollywood hero.
Yeah.
The basic thing that 99.9% of films and stories and comic books and video games are telling you is you can save the world.
Right.
And in the end, no matter how, it's always darkest before the dawn, and no matter how bad it's going to get, the hero's going to come through, and we're all raised with that.
Yeah.
Particularly as you say, as men, maybe that really gets beaten into you. Be the hero, be the hero. And this movie says, this guy you thought was a hero? Well, he's dead 20 minutes before the movie ends, and we never even see it.
Right.
And he never even confronts the big bad guy. Like, he just gets killed by some random people we never saw.
Right.
Our other guy, who's really heroic, he's just given up at this point.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about what was the point of all this for?
Right.
And you know what? That shit is bullshit. I mean, that's how it feels at the end of the movie.
Yes.
It's
and that's
like,
what I love about it. It matches the environment that they shoot this in, the bleakness. There is no happy, good feel end. There's no good feeling ending in this movie, and this is what I love. These movies are so rare nowadays. They were all over the 70s.
Yeah.
These movies are so rare nowadays, and there's a reason people love this movie as much as they did. And it won Best Picture because it harkens back to what filmmaking can really be, and the exploration of these themes of the inevitability of age, the inevitability of being unable to cope with what you could do before because your body and your mind just can't do it anymore. Yeah. And there is no, once again, what I said earlier, there is no bullshit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, you say this is the kind of movie that doesn't get made, and I think the reason that this one gets made is because it's the Coen Brothers.
Yes.
Because they have somehow carved out a niche for themselves where they get to make movies that basically the studio system doesn't make, because each one of their movies makes enough money for them to make the next one.
Yeah.
They're not making 150, 200, $300 million movies. They're hitting this level. They make a profit and they go make, and so Hollywood has said, make whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that allows them to do this.
And we as an audience say that too. Yeah. We will come to it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to, whatever. I don't know what the next Coen Brothers movie is, but I'm going to go see it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not that great.
Yep.
I'm going to go see it because
I
I
like Hail Caesar, which I really didn't like.
So one person we have not given enough credit to is Roger Deakins.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So this is the cinematographer. His first movie with the Coen Brothers was Barton Fink. I think he's done every Coen Brothers movie since then.
Wow.
I think. Okay. I'm not 100% sure. He's done most of them. Okay. He is one of our great cinematographers. He also did Skyfall and and what he says about the film is that they planned out every single shot. We talked about Apocalypse Now and the excess of the way Coppola did that film. We had talked about in The Shining the unbelievable attention to detail, which leads to a different kind of excess for Kubrick. And this is the opposite. He says that basically every shot they set up, they used. They had an extremely low film ratio. So Apocalypse Now, they shot like 1,600 hours of film for a 2.5-hour movie. This they shot, I forget what it is, but it's everything they shot, they used.
Yeah.
Because they knew exactly what they were going to do. They were extremely efficient. There's no zoom lenses. There's no tricks. It's just very like every shot composed just right.
Right.
And and by the way, one of the other things he did that I love, he's the cinematography advisor for WALL-E.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if you look at the first act of WALL-E, the Pixar movie, it is so gorgeous. And you can see Roger Deakins like talking about color and lighting and lensing and things like that because he's just one of the great cinematographers of all time.
I think that's why the movie works without music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're going to pull out one element, the other elements have to step up.
Exactly.
So your final thoughts.
Oh my. All I can tell you is look at one Best Picture for a reason. If you haven't seen it, revisit it again. I'm telling you, you will get something new out of it every time. I say this about Citizen Kane, and I think No Country for Old Men definitely belongs in that company. It's one of those films that you can watch over and over and over again, no matter where you're at in your life, no matter what age you're at, or what you're going through, or what you've experienced, or what you're about to tackle, and you will get something different out of it from any of the number of scenes or characters that are in that movie and the journeys that they go on. You will find echoes of the journeys that you are on in your own personal life and in your relationships with your family, with your parents, with your friends, what have you, in your journey of figuring out where you belong in this world and if you really made a difference and what your lasting impact was about your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like those great films, and I definitely put this as a great film.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't look at it and go, "Oh, this is like this one."
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even think it's like a Coen Brothers movie.
Mm-hmm.
It has. You could see the craftsmanship of the Coen Brothers in it.
Right.
But it is its own thing. And in fact, you can't really even place it in a genre.
No, it's like
a
Western
neo-noir?
thriller. Yeah. There's all
There's
kinds.
some really scary parts.
Yeah.
It has action sequences that are fantastic, but they're not action sequences like an action movie.
Yeah.
It is its own thing. And like a great movie, you don't get to walk away from it and understand it. You have to walk away from it and think about it.
You take what you want to take out of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what we think of No Country for Old Men. We'd love to hear what you think. You can always visit us on Facebook. That's at the Cine-Files. That's CINE-FILES. You can write all the horrible things you think I said to me on Twitter at SR Morris. John, if they have any horrible things they want to say to you, would you like them to contact you?
No, I don't want them to contact me and say horrible things. But if you feel the need to do so, you can always contact me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and Instagram. That's ROCHA. You could also say nice things about it. As we've discovered, mostly people say nice things about enjoying the show and enjoying our breakdown of the films.
I like nice things.
Yeah.
And speaking of nice things, I would like you to write those nice things on a review on iTunes.
Boom.
Because we definitely they really help us a lot. They help bring the show up in the rankings and allow more people to see it, and we really want that. So review us on iTunes, contact us on Twitter, write us messages on our Facebook page.
Android and Stitcher, what are we on?
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
So this is one problem. So Stitcher, they have a little problem with the dash in Cine-Files. I don't know why, but if you're searching for it, search for it without the dash.
Yes.
Search for Cine-Files, 2 words, and you'll find us.
Yes.
But Cine-Files, they can't find us. Stitcher says they're going to fix it. I'm assuming our podcast is the #1 priority for that corporation. So hopefully that'll be solved in the near future. Okay, that's it for this week. We will see you next time on an all-new Cine-Files.